Hello drummers, Garey Williams here. This is my brand new teaching studio here in the north end of Seattle, Washington. And I'm going to go through the 7 essential rudiments. I presented these last summer in my backyard. I'm going to be filming in my new studio. And this time I'm going to go through them with the traditional grip. Something that many drummers are getting more interested in learning about. There's a lot of confusion about it. So my goal is to help you with basically how to hold a stick, how to make it work. So here we go. So as we discussed in the previous videos, there's a sweet spot, a balance point, a fulcrum, which is a pivot point on a lever, and that happens to be still the same space, about where the flag is printed on the stick. That just needs to be laid in the web of your palm, between your thumb and index finger in this fashion. And what you want to do again is drop the stick to see if it's going to bounce. Now you may notice that the pad has got a slight angle, a la old school Buddy Rich style. And the reason for that is because now that the stick is staying on top of the hand, as opposed to the matched grip where it's under the hand, the stick, when the hands are at the same height, the left stick has a little bit more of a pitch or an angle to it. So oftentimes you want to create that same relationship with the pad or the drum. So you want the stick to be parallel. If it's at an angle and you try to bounce it, first of all, it could slip up and down out of your hand more easily, but it's not going to bounce as well unless it's parallel. So if you want to experiment with the sweet spot, you can move your hand up and down the stick and drop it, and you'll notice back here there's not a lot of rebound. There's more weight, but there's not as much bounce. So as you move your hand up, you increase the rebound. And you keep moving it up, experimenting, being careful not to angle the stick too much, till you get to that point where pretty much it's the flag on a Vic Firth stick. You can move up further to find out, and you'll notice it just doesn't really bounce as much. So right about here is the sweet spot. So my arm is pointed forward, my hand is just extended, and right now all I'm doing is just resting the stick right there on that soft part of my hand, the web of my palm, and letting the stick bounce. Now you can gently put your thumb on the stick, and then you can move your thumb back and forth like this to waggle the stick. But basically the next thing I would suggest is just to turn your hand, holding your thumb very gently, slightly pushing down like you're turning a doorknob. So at this point I'm really just trying to let the stick bounce and in a sense follow the rebound back up. Now I could hold it tightly, pushing and pulling the stroke up, but naturally it's going to be a lot easier if I'm doing half the work and getting the stick to do the other half. So for a period of time, this is going to probably be what you want to do, is just getting used to moving your hand and experimenting with lowering the stroke so that the speed naturally increases because the distance is shorter. So if you're going slower, then the strokes could be broader, and if you're going faster, the strokes can be smaller. So I'm using kind of a wrist bounce combination here. Now when I come to stop, I can just let the stick bounce. And then the next thing, I like to put my ring finger under the stick, and sometimes I like to even hold it in this position just to see if I can cradle it like a shelf. And then I bring the middle finger up against the stick and then bring the index finger over. And I think Tommy Igoe describes it very well in his Great Hands for a Lifetime, bing, bang, boom with the triangle. It's the simplest way. And gently, my fingers are resting on the stick, and then when I bounce it, they move away from the stick, and then when it's stopped, they're right there again. So this is the basic stroke and the traditional grip. So what I'd want to do is practice this, moving my fingers in and out, realizing that the grip is really right there, between the thumb and the index finger. Now as I speed up, I could tighten up, but of course that's not going to help us get a very good sound or let us play for very long periods of time. So I need to learn to play shorter strokes. Shorter strokes are the key to more speed. You literally want to shorten the distance the stick has to travel. Now right there I brought my index finger over the top of the stick and I'm literally tapping down on it. I kind of think of like a flute player who has to curl their fingers over the top of the stick and place it over the air holes. In this case, I'm using the tips of my fingers to tap down. So this presents us with this finger control stroke technique. So with the finger control strokes, you just want to place the flag over the web of the palm, and have your hand facing toward the pad. Drop in the stick to find the balance point. Now if you move it up and down, again, it'll have that same effect where, oh, that's just balancing it. Now it's bouncing. So you'll probably find it's about where the flag is on the Vic First stick. That's where it usually is. So what I want to do next is I want to take these fingers and start batting down on the top of the stick in this fashion. This may take a few tries to figure out exactly the timing, but I'm not leaving my fingers in contact with the stick. I'm trying to pretend the stick is like hot. Tap it, get right off of it. Hot potato. And so the idea here is just to see if I can dribble the stick, just fingers only. It's pretty cool. I'm using both my middle and index finger, and then I can move it over to use the ring finger in the middle. I can even go all the way over here and get a little pinky in there. It doesn't feel as comfortable, but I've messed around with just different fingers by themselves just to see what this feels like. Now, you may notice I'm kind of bending down. And part of the reason for that is I'm trying to keep the stick parallel to the pad. So when first learning this, you might find it helpful to really raise the pad up so it's much higher than normal, just so that you can relax your arm and let it hang a little bit and get used to dribbling the stick. Now after you feel like you can kind of change the speed a little, like if you were able to dribble a basketball up and down at different speeds, the next thing I like to try to do is experiment with taking my fingers, which have been in this flat position extended, and then start to curve them up like that. More with my fingertips, more with the pad. If you come up too high, you got fingernails, you can hear them tap. That's a little too sharp. Now the reason for this is that eventually we're going to turn our hand into the traditional grip position, and we want to have our fingertips, as I mentioned earlier, curved over like a flute player, batting down on the top of the stick from the back side. So we want to be able to do this. So our thumb is pointing kind of this direction, and we want to end up with our thumb being more in this direction. We may want to move our arm out just a little. We could do it only with the wrist, but it'll ease how much the fingers have to bend if the arm reaches a little. So we start here, and then we bring it up here, and then we bring it around to here. Now this is a little easier said than done. You may have to do it more gradually. There is a little bit of an awkward middle ground there. So you'll have to practice this for a little bit to see if you can get control. Now here the stick is almost at this angle from my arm, again because my fingers are curved over the top, tapping down. So starting here, coming around, and then if you can, work on really making the strokes shorter. Now when I'm slower, I'm back to just my thumb. So I'm going to lower the pad to be more realistic. So what I'll do is demonstrate the single stroke roll, slow to fast to slow with the traditional grip, and you'll see me transition from wrist bounce to fingers and then reverse it. Top of the roller coaster, and we're going back down the next big hill. There we go. Back up. Adjust my left hand a little stick creep there. Coming back down. So that's the way I like to practice it, is coming up and down the roller coaster, having a little more fun, see if I can pick up a little more speed. And the real key for me is tall strokes or slow, broader motions. And as I increase the speed, I'm really thinking about just decreasing the distance the sticks have to travel, which is what makes it possible for you to go faster. Okay, so I hope that helps you out. Good luck to you, and I'll have some more upcoming videos on some of the other 7 essential rudiments pretty soon. So take care, and we'll see you next time.